I did some work with machine learning in college, and I recently decided to get back into it. And I saw a Google I/O presentation where they mentioned a rock paper scissors data set for machine vision. And I thought that would be a really fun idea for a mobile app where you could take pictures of your hand doing rock paper scissors and use that to play the game. The basic application would need three main components. First, I would need a machine learning model which would process the image and output rock, paper, or scissors. Second, I would need a camera application which would take the actual image. And third, I would need to write the simple logic for the game of rock, paper, scissors. First, I needed a machine learning model. This was one of the easier parts of the project, as I already have plenty of experience with neural networks and TensorFlow from college, and all I needed to make was a simple convolutional neural network. Training and retraining after changing the parameters did take time, but it was not difficult per se. Next, I needed to make the camera application. Since I had never touched mobile development before, I realized from the beginning that this was going to be a difficult part of the project for me. I started learning the basics of Android development by using YouTube tutorials. After I had gotten a basic grasp of general Android development, I started learning how to use the Camera X API. Since this API was still in beta, there was not a ton of information out there, and a lot of the information that was out there was out of date due to changes in the API between the alpha and beta stages. This made it frustratingly difficult to find a useful tutorial for the API. After piecing together a number of incomplete tutorials, I was able to figure out how to use the API. While the Camera X API itself is not very difficult, it's pretty straightforward and easy to use, the lack of information on it made it frustratingly difficult to actually figure out how to use it. At this point, I had a machine learning model and a camera application, and I needed to bring them together. So I converted my TensorFlow model into a TensorFlow Lite model, which is a lightweight version of TensorFlow that is designed specifically for use with mobile applications. However, there were issues with inputting the data into the model. The TensorFlow Lite model takes in arrays of bytes, so I had to convert the image into byte arrays and pre-process the data before I sent it to the model. However, no matter how I processed the data, it did not want to work. Eventually, I realized that the model could take in bitmap images, so I converted the image to a bitmap and sent that in, which did not need any pre-processing of the data. And finally, the model worked. But not too well. You see, the data that I had found online was not representative of the real-world use case. And so, even though the model looked like it had trained well, it did not work well. And so I had to go back and gather my own data. But my new data set was smaller than the old data set, and I had to compensate for that. So I added a generator to the model so that it could better generalize from my smaller data set. After retraining the model, all that was left was to add in the logic for rock, paper, scissors. So I added a pop-up window that displayed the winner and what each player chose. The main difficulties so far with this project have been the lack of information with the Camera X API, which made it way more time-consuming than it should have been to learn how to use it. My lack of data for my neural network, which made it so that the network doesn't work very well. And my lack of UI experience, which made it difficult to force the Android UI to do what I wanted inside of the application. In the next part of this project, which I will link right here, I will create a system for collecting and storing more data for the model. After that, I will spend significant time working on the UI and getting it ready to publish for the Android App Store, which is the final goal of this project.